My fiance texted, "We need a bigger diamond. My ex is making fun of my ring." I texted back, "Say." My fiance texted, "We need a bigger diamond. My ex is making fun of my ring." I texted back, "Say no more." Then I returned the ring, got a full refund, and blocked her number. The next post in her group chat was about me. The text message that destroyed my life arrived at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, right as I was reviewing blueprints for what would become the most expensive mistake of my career. "We need a bigger diamond. My ex is making fun of my ring on Instagram." I stared at my phone, watching those words burn themselves into my retinas like acid. Jessica Harper, my fiancée of 8 months, the woman I'd proposed to with a 2-carat princess cut that cost me 3 months' salary, wanted a bigger rock because her ex-boyfriend was publicly mocking her engagement ring. My name is Mike Harper, and I'm an architect. I design buildings that last centuries, structures built on solid foundations with careful planning and precise calculations. I should have applied that same logic to my relationship with Jess. "Mike, you seen this?" Eli Rodriguez, my business partner and best friend since college, burst into my office holding his laptop. "Your girl's all over social media talking about upgrading her ring." I looked at Eli's screen. There was Jess, posing with her ring hand prominently displayed, responding to comments about the diamond's size. "It's just the beginning," she'd written. "Mike's going to surprise me with something much bigger soon." The comments underneath made my stomach turn. Her friends were encouraging her, suggesting she deserved better, and that I was clearly holding back. But the worst comment came from Derek Price, her boss at the PR firm where she worked. "Some men just don't understand what quality looks like. Maybe you need someone who appreciates true value." "Jesus, Mike," Eli said, reading over my shoulder. "She's basically advertising that she's available for an upgrade." I closed the laptop and walked to my office window, looking out at the Boston skyline. My firm had designed 3 of those buildings. I was successful, respected, financially stable. But apparently, that wasn't enough for Jessica Harper. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Jess. "Can we meet tonight? I have some ideas about the wedding budget. Maybe we can reallocate some funds toward the ring." I typed back, "Sure, let's talk." But I had no intention of buying her a bigger diamond. In fact, I was starting to think about returning the one I'd already bought. That evening, Jess arrived at our shared apartment in Beacon Hill, wearing a new dress I'd never seen before. Designer, expensive, definitely not something she could afford on her PR salary. "You look nice," I said, though something about her appearance felt calculated, like she was dressed for an audience. "Thanks, baby." She kissed my cheek, leaving a lipstick mark I didn't bother to wipe off. "So, I've been thinking about our conversation earlier. You mean your text demanding a bigger diamond?" Her smile faltered slightly. "I wouldn't call it demanding. I just think we should consider making a statement with our engagement. You know how important image is in my industry." "Your industry? Since when did our engagement become a marketing campaign?" Jess sat down on our white leather couch, crossing her legs in a way that used to drive me crazy. Now it just looked rehearsed. "Mike, you have to understand. Derek's been talking about bringing me in as a partner at the firm. These things matter. The people I work with, the clients we entertain, they notice details." "Derek's been talking about making you a partner?" I kept my voice level, but something cold was spreading through my chest. "That's interesting. You never mentioned that before." "It just came up recently. He's been very supportive of my career growth." I walked to our kitchen and poured myself a scotch, taking my time to process what I was hearing. When I turned back, Jess was scrolling through her phone, probably checking her Instagram likes. "So, let me understand this," I said. "You want me to spend another $10,000 or $15,000 on a bigger diamond because your boss thinks it will help your career? It's not just Derek, it's about us, Mike. About showing the world that we're serious about our future together. By going into debt for a piece of jewelry?" Her perfectly manicured fingers tightened around her phone. "It's not about the money. It's about what the ring represents. It's about you showing that you value me enough to make a real investment. I thought the investment was our relationship, our future, the life we're building together." Jess stood up, her voice rising. God, Mike, sometimes you're so practical it's suffocating. Can't you just once do something romantic? Something that shows you understand what I need? What you need or what Derek thinks you need? The question hung in the air between us like a challenge. Jess's cheeks flushed, and for a moment, I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt, maybe, or fear of being caught. That's not fair, she said finally. Derek is my boss. Of course I care about his opinion professionally. Professionally, right. I finished my scotch and set the glass down harder than necessary. Tell me something, Jess. When you post about our relationship on social media, who are you really trying to impress? I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm asking directly. Is this about us, or is this about competing with other people? Because from where I'm standing, it feels like you're more interested in winning some kind of social media contest than actually being engaged to me. Jess grabbed her purse from the coffee table. I can't talk to you when you're like this. You're being paranoid and jealous. Jealous of what? Nothing. Forget it. I'm going to stay at Tara's tonight. Maybe tomorrow you'll be ready to have a mature conversation about our future. She headed for the door, then turned back. And Mike, the ring isn't just about me, it's about us. If you can't understand that, maybe we need to reconsider what we're doing here. The door slammed behind her, leaving me alone with my doubts and a growing certainty that my fiancé was lying to me about something important. I picked up my phone and scrolled through Jess's recent Instagram posts. There were dozens of photos from the past few weeks that I'd never seen before. Expensive dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together, cocktails at upscale bars in the financial district, shopping trips to Newbury Street with bags from stores that cost more than most people's rent. And in several of the photos, tagged in the background or mentioned in the comments, was Derek Price. I clicked on his profile. Derek was 43, recently divorced, and apparently very interested in documenting his newfound single life. His feed was full of expensive cars, luxury vacations, and photos from high-end restaurants. The same restaurants where Jess had been posting photos. My phone rang. Eli's name appeared on the screen. Hey man, you okay? Sarah saw Jess's posts today and thought you might want to talk. Sarah was Eli's wife, and one of the few people who'd been honest about her reservations regarding Jess from the beginning. I'm fine, I lied. Just working through some relationship stuff. Mike, can I ask you something? And don't get pissed at me for asking. Shoot, do you trust her? The question hit me like a physical blow, probably because I'd been avoiding asking it myself. Why would you ask that? Because Sarah's been following her social media, and some things don't add up. The places she's been, the things she's buying, the people she's hanging around with. Either you're spending a lot more money than you're telling me, or she's got another source of income. I walked back to the window, looking out at the city lights. What kind of other source? I don't know, man, but Derek Price has been liking and commenting on every single one of her posts. And from what Sarah tells me, that guy's got a reputation. What kind of reputation? The kind where he dates women who work for him, then promotes them when things get serious. His ex-wife left him because of it. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. How does Sarah know all this? She works in PR, remember? Boston's a small town when it comes to that industry. Everyone knows everyone else's business. After I hung up with Eli, I sat in my apartment for a long time, thinking about the past few months. The late nights Jess claimed were work events, the new clothes and jewelry that appeared in her closet, the way she'd started talking about Derek's opinions on everything from restaurants to vacation destinations, and the way she'd looked when I'd asked about him tonight, like someone who'd been caught in a lie she wasn't ready to confess. I walked to my bedroom and opened the safe where I kept important documents. The receipt for Jess's engagement ring was still there, along with the insurance paperwork. 2 carats, princess cut, 8,400. I folded the receipt and put it in my wallet. Tomorrow, I was going to have a conversation with the jeweler about their return policy. But first, I was going to find out exactly what kind of work events my fiancé had been attending. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. Instead of going to my office, I drove to the financial district and parked across the street from Jess's building. I felt like a stalker, but I needed to see something with my own eyes. At 8:45 a.m., Derek Price's silver Range Rover pulled into the parking garage beneath the building. At 8:47, Jess's red BMW followed it down the same ramp. They'd arrived at work together. I sat in my car for another hour, trying to come up with innocent explanations. Maybe they'd run into each other at a coffee shop. Maybe Derek had offered her a ride because her car was having problems. Maybe I was being paranoid, just like she'd accused me of being. But when I called Jess at 10 a.m., she answered on the first ring with a story about how she'd taken the T to work because of traffic, and how she was swamped with a new client presentation that would probably keep her at the office until late. My fiancé was lying to me. The question was, about what, and for how long? I spent the rest of the day doing something I'd never done before, investigating the woman I was supposed to marry. I started with social media, going back through months of posts, looking for patterns I'd missed. What I found made my chest tight, with a combination of anger and humiliation. For the past 3 months, Jess had been living a double life. While she was telling me she was working late or having girls' nights with Tara and Chloe, she was actually attending expensive dinners, wine tastings, and cultural events around the city, events that Derek Price was also attending, based on the location tags and timestamp matches in their respective posts. But they were careful never to post photos together. Instead, they'd post separate pictures from the same locations at the same times, with captions that made it look like coincidence. Amazing dinner at Mistral tonight. Sometimes you need to treat yourself, Jess had written 3 weeks ago. Great meal with a colleague. Important to maintain client relationships, Derek had posted the same evening from the same restaurant. I screenshot everything, building a timeline that painted a picture I didn't want to see but couldn't ignore. My phone rang. Jess's name appeared on the screen. "Hi, baby," she said, and I could hear the fake sweetness in her voice. "I'm sorry about last night. I was stressed about work, and I took it out on you." "It's okay," I said, though it wasn't. "I was thinking maybe we could have dinner tonight and talk about the ring situation. I found some options online that might work within our budget." "Our budget?" "Well, your budget. You know what I mean." "Actually, Jess, I've been thinking about the ring situation, too. I think we should meet tonight and discuss it." "Great. Should I come home around 7? "Perfect. See you then." I hung up and immediately called the jewelry store where I'd bought the engagement ring. "Harper's Jewelry, this is David." "Hi, David, this is Mike Harper. I bought an engagement ring from you about 8 months ago." "Of course, the princess cut. Beautiful choice. How's the fiancé enjoying it?" "That's actually why I'm calling. I need to ask about your return policy." There was a pause. "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Is there a problem with the ring?" "The problem isn't with the ring." David explained that I had 30 days from the original purchase date for a full refund, but after that, they could offer store credit for 70% of the purchase price, assuming the ring was in perfect condition. "I'll need to bring it in for inspection," he said, "but assuming everything checks out, we can process the return immediately." "And the store credit? Does it have to be used for jewelry?" "Not necessarily. We also carry watches, and we have a partnership with several other luxury retailers. You'd have options." After I hung up, I walked around my apartment, looking at all the evidence of the life Jess and I had built together. Her books mixed with mine on the shelves, her coffee mug in the sink, her yoga mat rolled up in the corner of the bedroom. Everything looked normal, domestic, real. But underneath it all was a foundation of lies that I was only just beginning to understand. At 6:30, I heard Jess's key in the lock. "Mike," she called out, "I brought Thai food from that place you like." She walked into the living room, carrying takeout bags and wearing another new outfit I'd never seen before. A silk blouse that probably cost more than most people spent on groceries in a month. "New shirt?" I asked. "This old thing? I've had it forever." She set the food on our coffee table and kissed my cheek. "You look tired. Rough day at work?" "I actually didn't go to work today." Her smile faltered. "Are you feeling okay?" "I'm fine. I just had some personal business to take care of." We sat down to eat, and I watched Jess scroll through her phone while picking at her pad thai. She was distracted, constantly checking messages and typing responses. "Busy night at work?" I asked. "Oh, you know how it is. Client emergencies never stop." She put her phone face down on the table but it kept buzzing with notifications. Jess, can I ask you something? Sure. Are you happy? With us, I mean, with our relationship. She looked up from her food, and for a moment I saw something genuine in her expression. Uncertainty, maybe, or guilt. Of course I'm happy. Why would you ask that? Because lately it feels like we want different things. You want a bigger ring, a more expensive wedding, a lifestyle that requires more money than we actually have. And I want a partner who's satisfied with what we can build together. Mike, I don't think wanting nice things makes me a bad person. I didn't say it did. But I think lying about where you get those nice things might. The words hung between us like an accusation. Jess set down her fork and looked at me with wide eyes. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the new clothes, the expensive dinners, the late nights that aren't actually work events. I'm talking about Derek Price. Her face went pale. Mike, you're scaring me. You sound paranoid. Am I? Because I spent today looking at social media posts, and it seems like you and Derek have been spending a lot of time together. Time you haven't mentioned to me. He's my boss. Of course we spend time together. At Mistral? At the wine bar in the North End? At the art gallery opening last weekend when you told me you were having a girls' night with Tara? Jess stood up abruptly, knocking over her water glass. You've been stalking me? I've been trying to figure out why my fiancé has been lying to me for months. I haven't been lying. Then explain the timeline, Jess. Explain how you can afford designer clothes on your salary. Explain why you and Derek post from the same locations at the same times, but never mention each other. Explain why you came to work with him this morning, but told me you took the tea. She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her calculating, trying to figure out how much I knew and how much she could still deny. You followed me to work? I sat in my car and watched you arrive together. That's not following, that's witnessing. Jess walked to the window, her back to me. When she spoke, her voice was different, colder. Derek and I have been working closely on some new business development. Sometimes that requires after-hours meetings. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd react exactly like this. React like what? Like someone who expects honesty from his fiancé? React like someone who's jealous and insecure. Insecure about what? She turned around, and her expression was harder than I'd ever seen it. About the fact that Derek appreciates me in ways you don't. About the fact that he sees my potential and wants to help me achieve it. And what does he want in return? Nothing. He's a mentor. Mentors don't usually buy their mentees designer clothes. He doesn't buy me clothes. Then how do you afford them? I have credit cards. Credit cards you pay off with what money? We stared at each other across the living room, and I could see the moment she decided to stop pretending. You know what, Mike? You're right. Derek does buy me things sometimes. Because he values me. Because he thinks I deserve nice things. Because he's not constantly worried about money and budgets and being practical. The admission hit me like a physical blow. So you are having an affair. I'm not having an affair. I'm being appreciated by someone who understands what I need. What you need. What you need is expensive dinners and designer clothes. What I need is someone who doesn't make me feel guilty for wanting more out of life. I walked to the bedroom and returned with the engagement ring box. I set it on the coffee table between us. Take it off. Mike, don't be dramatic. Take off the ring, Jess. If Derek Price appreciates you so much, let him buy you jewelry. She stared at the box, then at me. You don't mean that. I've never meant anything more in my life. Take it off and get out of my apartment. This is our apartment. No, it's my apartment. My name is on the lease. Your name is on nothing because you've been too busy spending other people's money to contribute anything real to this relationship. Jess's eyes filled with tears, but they looked calculated rather than genuine. Mike, please, let's talk about this rationally. Rationally? You want to talk rationally about the fact that you've been emotionally cheating on me for months while planning a wedding that you expected me to pay for? I haven't been cheating. What would you call it? I would call it exploring my options. The honesty of that statement was somehow worse than any lie she could have told. I picked up the ring box and held it out to her. Explore them somewhere else. She took the box with shaking hands and removed the ring. For a moment, she looked like she might say something, an apology maybe, or an explanation. Instead, she set the ring on the coffee table and walked toward the bedroom. I'll pack some things. Pack everything. I'll have the rest of your stuff delivered wherever you want it sent. 20 minutes later, Jess stood at my front door with 2 suitcases and a look of defiance that told me she'd already made her choice. You're making a mistake, Mike. The mistake was proposing to you in the first place. Derek's been talking about making some big changes at the firm. I could have helped your business. With what? Lies? Manipulation? No, thank you. She opened the door, then turned back one more time. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is not seeing who you really were sooner. After she left, I sat in my quiet apartment, holding the engagement ring and feeling something I hadn't expected. Relief. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Mike, this is Tara, Jess's friend. We need to talk. There are things you should know. I met Tara at a coffee shop in Cambridge the next morning. She was one of Jess's closest friends, a petite brunette who worked in marketing and had always been polite but distant whenever we'd socialized together. Thanks for meeting me, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. I wasn't sure if you'd want to talk. Honestly, I'm not sure either, but your text said there were things I should know. Tara fidgeted with her coffee cup, clearly uncomfortable. Look, Mike, I like you. I always have. And what Jess has been doing, it's not right. What exactly has she been doing? She's been planning to leave you for Derek for over 2 months, but she wanted to wait until after your wedding. The words hit me like ice water. Wait until after the wedding? Why? Because Derek's divorce isn't final yet. His wife is fighting for half of everything, and Derek's lawyers told him not to make any major relationship changes until it's settled. So Jess was going to marry you, then have an affair, then divorce you and take half your assets before moving in with Derek. I stared at Tara, trying to process what she was telling me. How do you know all this? Because she told me. She told all of us. Me, Chloe, Sarah from her office. She said it was the smart play. Marry the stable guy, then upgrade to the rich guy once the coast was clear. And none of you thought to warn me? Tara looked ashamed. We should have. But Jess, she has a way of making you feel like you're betraying her if you don't support her decisions. And honestly, some of the others thought it was clever. Clever. I know how it sounds. But Jess has always been ambitious. She's always felt like she deserved more than what she had. When Derek started paying attention to her, she saw it as her chance to get the life she wanted. I thought about all the wedding planning we'd been doing. The venue deposits, the catering contracts, the photographer we'd already paid half up front. All of it had been a lie. Tara, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Okay. Are they sleeping together? She hesitated, then nodded. For about 6 weeks now. Derek has a penthouse in the Back Bay. She's been staying there most nights, then coming home to you in the morning. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, that I almost couldn't feel it. It was like being told you had a terminal illness, too big to process all at once. Why are you telling me this now? Because last night, after she left your place, she called me crying. But she wasn't crying because she felt bad about what she'd done. She was crying because her plan fell apart before she could execute it. She was angry at you for figuring it out too soon. Too soon. She said Derek's divorce should be final in about 3 months. The plan was to stay engaged to you until then, have the wedding, then start having problems that would lead to her leaving you for Derek. She figured she could get at least half your assets, plus alimony. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Half my assets? She really didn't know me at all, did she? What do you mean? I mean, most of my money is tied up in the business I own with Eli. She would have gotten the apartment and maybe some savings. She was planning to blow up both our lives for maybe $50,000. I don't think she understood that. She just saw that you were successful and assumed you were rich. I finished my coffee and stood up. Tara, thank you for telling me this. I know it wasn't easy. Mike, there's one more thing. What? Jess and Derek are planning to start their own PR firm. They've been using information from your business, client lists, project details, stuff like that, to put together their business plan. Derek thinks there's money to be made in architectural PR. The violation felt personal in a way that even the affair hadn't. She's been going through my files. She took photos of documents with her phone. Derek's been coaching her on what to look for. I sat back down. Do you know what specific information they took? Client contacts, mostly. Project budgets, stuff that would help them figure out which architects have money to spend on PR services. That's proprietary information. That's theft. I know. That's another reason I wanted to tell you. What they're doing isn't just morally wrong, it's probably illegal. I thanked Tara again and drove straight to my office. Eli was at his drafting table, working on plans for a residential project in Newton. Mike, you look like hell. What's going on? I told him everything. About the affair, about the wedding plan, about the stolen business information. Eli listened without interrupting, his expression getting darker with each detail. Jesus Christ, Mike. She was going to marry you just to divorce you? That was the plan. And they're stealing our client information? According to Tara. Eli stood up and started pacing around the office. Okay, first things first. We need to change all our passwords and secure our files. Then we need to figure out what information they actually have and whether we can do anything about it. I don't think we can prove they took anything. It would be her word against ours. Maybe. But Derek Price has a reputation in this town. If word gets out that he's stealing proprietary information to start a competing business, that's not going to go well for him. What do you mean? I mean, Boston's business community is smaller than you think. People talk. And if the right people start talking about Derek Price being unethical, that could kill his new venture before it starts. I spent the rest of the day securing our digital files and trying to figure out what Jess might have accessed. Our client database, our project files, our financial records. She'd had access to all of it through my laptop and home computer. That evening, I got a call from an unknown number. Mike Harper? Speaking. This is Derek Price. I think we should meet. The sound of his voice made my jaw clench. I don't think we have anything to discuss. I think we do. Jess told me about your conversation yesterday. I'd like to clear the air. Clear the air? You've been sleeping with my fiancé and stealing my business information. What exactly do you want to clear? There was a pause. I think there's been some misunderstanding. Could we meet for coffee tomorrow morning? Somewhere public, neutral territory. Why would I want to do that? Because I have something you want, which is information about what Jess has been saying about you to other people. Information you might find useful if you want to protect your reputation. The threat was subtle but clear. Are you blackmailing me, Derek? I'm offering you a chance to handle the situation quietly, before it becomes more complicated than it needs to be. I agreed to meet him the next morning at a Starbucks in downtown Boston. I had no intention of being intimidated, but I was curious about what kind of game he thought he was playing. Derek Price was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, silver-haired, expensively dressed, and radiating the kind of confidence that comes from never having to face real consequences for bad behavior. Mike, thanks for coming. He stood up and offered his hand. I didn't take it. Let's get this over with. What do you want? I want to apologize. What happened between Jess and me, it wasn't planned. Sometimes these things just develop naturally. Naturally, right. So naturally that you've been planning to steal my clients and start a competing business. His smile faltered slightly. I don't know what you've been told, but I've been told that you and Jess have been photographing my proprietary business information to use in your new venture. Is that true? That's a very serious accusation. It's a very serious crime. Industrial espionage, theft of trade secrets, conspiracy to commit fraud. Should I keep going? Derek leaned back in his chair, reassessing me. Mike, I think we got off on the wrong foot. I didn't ask you here to fight. Then why did you ask me here? Because Jess is upset. And when Jess is upset, she says things. Things about you, about your relationship, about your business practices. Things that might not be true, but could still be damaging if they got to the wrong people. such as allegations about how you treat women, about your temper, about some of the creative accounting practices at your firm. I felt a cold rage building in my chest. Are you threatening to have her lie about me? I'm not threatening anything. I'm just pointing out that breakups can get messy, and sometimes people say things they don't mean when they're emotional. And you think you can prevent that by, what? Having me quietly disappear from the situation? I think everyone would be better off if we could all move forward without unnecessary drama. I stood up. Derek, let me explain something to you. I'm not some college kid you can intimidate. I'm a successful businessman with a reputation that's built on actual accomplishments, not on manipulating people and stealing information. If Jess wants to lie about me, she can try. But lies have a way of coming back to bite people. Mike, sit down. Let's talk about this rationally. We're done talking. But let me give you some free advice. If you think you can build a business on stolen information and intimidation, you're going to find out very quickly that Boston's professional community doesn't tolerate that kind of behavior. I walked out of the coffee shop feeling like I'd just declared war, which I realized was exactly what I'd done. That afternoon, I called 3 of our biggest clients and had frank conversations about information security and competitive intelligence. I didn't mention Derek or Jess by name, but I made it clear that there might be some attempts to solicit their business using improperly obtained information. Bye.